episode 35 of the Well Balanced series, you guys. Today I'm talking with my friend Leah, who I actually was in school with in the NTP, so super excited to connect with her and see how she's doing. But we're talking all about just, improving energy levels naturally and how that's connected to adrenal health, thyroid health, and then also just foundational health. And I think, just in this, sorry, I'm sitting, there's a ambulance. But just, there's so much information with nutrition these days that it can get really overwhelming. So just kind of breaking down the foundational stuff and addressing things, from a very simple approach because it can get really overwhelming. And she's a new mom, so I want to talk about how she's implemented some of these things within her life as well. So I'm going to add her in. Let's see if she is here, and we'll get this conversation going. Let's see.
Hello.
Leah!
Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Cal.
Hi, how are you?
Good. And is the lighting okay?
You are good. You are it's super chill, so no worries. Hold on. Just trying to adjust. It's always weird when two people come on. Changes where you are. Okay, there we go. We're good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I feel like I've been running all over and I don't know why. It's one of those days.
Hey, it's one of those weeks. I feel it, and I was like, it's only Wednesday. Oh, it's Tuesday. It's not even
Tuesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what day is it?
Literally, what day is it? I don't know. Well, I'm so excited to have you and so glad we could finally connect. And yeah, just can't wait to chat. So, if you've watched any episodes, I usually start with an introduction just to see, let the audience know who you are, and then also just share your story and kind of what got you into the space. And I was briefing that we were in the same class. So, nutrition, foundational health, all of that. And then, of course, now that you're a mom, I would love to hear how you kind of can connect everything together. And then we'll talk more about, the things that we had listed, which is more natural ways to improve energy. And I'm sure postpartum was a big thing with that, how you can support that phase. And then also just foundational health, where people can start, overwhelming. It's just such a world of information these days. So people, I feel like, are very confused and then just overwhelmed. So we'll break that down. So does that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So to start with my story, I guess I don't have anything super fascinating as far as what got me into health and wellness, but I just remember, I don't know if I read an article in junior high and high school that got me, that piqued my interest, and it went something along the lines of nutrition can help you with your performance and your endurance and just how you might feel on a day-to-day basis. And so from there, I kind of began researching on my own, like maybe nutrition does impact all of those roles. And I already ate fairly well. My mom made homemade meals all week long. And so I wasn't unfamiliar with that. But I can't say did food really impact my performance, because right along that time we moved to a new town, and as a junior in high school, I was the new kid, so a whole new set of symptoms of being lonely and depressed and anxious um, came into the picture. So right around that time, fast forward more into high school as a junior, I was following more of the fitness path and not so much nutrition. So I got into the gym and boosted my self-esteem that way. And my passion began more in the fitness side versus the nutrition. So it started with an interest in nutrition, but then it kind of fell off track and was focused more on my body image and getting strong in the gym. But then once I got certified as a personal trainer, um, I was not noticing a lot of progress with my clients because they were showing up to the gym, 2, 3 times a week, but that's only 3 hours out of the week of exercise. And I was like, there's got to be more to this picture. And so anyway, then I kind of dove back into nutrition. So it's kind of going all over the place, but it definitely, it makes sense now looking back that it started with nutrition, got into fitness, and then how they're both connected in that way. And yeah, so that's where I'm at now. I became a personal trainer, a yoga instructor, and then just with my own health symptoms, I the NTA fell into my lap and kind of solved some of those issues like anxiety and digestive discomfort. So I don't really know where my story is, but really it's because there was so many. It's multifaceted as far as where it began for me. Is
Hey,
that?
that's okay. You know, everyone's got their own journey. And it's funny because mine was kind of opposite of that. Mine was fitness first and then nutrition.
Mm.
And very much similar though, like these clients were coming in, you know, day after day, and they were doing these workouts and it was great, but they weren't seeing much change physically and really reaching their goals. And I feel like it was just so much stress around looking a certain way versus really looking at the root of, you know, what where that weight can go and that we kind of share similar stories in that way. Can you hear me okay? You're kind of frozen.
Yeah,
Okay. You
you're
can?
kind of
You're
frozen
good.
too. So is it me?
I don't know. I have my Wi-Fi on, but I don't. I'll try it. Usually it's fine. It freaks out, but then it'll come back. So we'll see.
It says it's full bars, so let me know if you can't hear.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, so like let's talk about you, you know, transitioning from the NTA and kind of like what you're doing now and how you've what are some of the things that you've taken from that program and just that lifestyle change, you know, to help you that did help you support your symptoms that you were experiencing. You know, what are some things that you can offer the audience that are, you know, simple tips that are from that foundational level that really made a difference?
Yeah, so when it comes to foundations and postpartum, oh my gosh, it all is so interconnected, like truthfully. So I want to kind of back up.
Okay.
When I first moved here, um, there was a big part of my story that really kind of connects to all this. So I was running on a lot of stress hormones, right? I was going to the gym like 5, 6, 7 days a week, pushing myself in that way, like to the extent where I was had every symptom of, say, orthorexia, where I was super obsessed with eating healthy, and that all of those factors, over exercising, under eating, making sure everything was fit into my fitness pal, it all just kind of led into me becoming burnt out. My body was constantly running on, caffeine, not enough food, and just stress hormones. So my adrenal glands were just pumping out all of this cortisol and adrenaline, and my whole body was kind of put on the back burner when it comes to everything else, your hair, skin, and nails, and all of those beautiful beauty aspects, and more on, okay, I'm just trying to survive right now. And so that took me to that burnout phase where I began experiencing like severe fatigue and not sleeping well at night. And so those symptoms made me go to a practitioner. And I believe she was a nutritional therapy practitioner. And she helped me understand, like, your body is in a state of severe stress. Here are some of the things we can start working on, like focusing more on minerals, and let's stop drinking a gallon of water a day and start adding in those trace minerals. And so foundation number one that I would say that I started slow with was just transitioning from a lot of water to more mineral broths, bone broth, any of those bone, chicken and beef, to eating more a lot more salty foods, because that's also minerals if you're getting the right salt. And so that is the foundation in the NTA, minerals. And then along with that, trying to join this in with pregnancy and postpartum, just how we need to be nourishing our adrenal glands to make sure that we're not in such a stress state, and how minerals play a role in that. And you can probably talk and attest to that with your HTMA. But foundation number two that we started working on more was not just your eating better, but making sure we're eating smaller, frequent meals more often. So right upon waking, I actually started my system with like fruit because that's what it was craving for. It was craving for fresh ripe fruit, so that got minerals in my body. And then from there on, I would nourish with the protein, a fat, and a carb, and do that every 2-3 hours. And then I actually noticed when I built that foundation, if I don't nourish within 2-3 hours, my body is actually calling out for food. Like, hey, you're getting undernourished, so let's start feeding it more again. And so that's foundation number 2, is to just not just eat well, but make sure you're eating frequently. And foundation number 3 that we can talk about is, let's see, I wrote it down just to make sure.
Yeah. Love notes.
Obviously, your heavy emphasis on sleep, but when you start having a baby and add in all that postpartum stuff, sleep, you can't just get 8 hours as a blanket statement that most people say. It's get your 8 hours of sleep, but really, how can we support ourselves when we are not getting a lot of sleep? And so that goes back into, if you're able to take naps throughout the day, some people can, or even I read this really great tip that some people, if they're not at home and able to nap, they take a nap on their noon hour or their 15-minute, if they're able to do that at work. And that actually is really helpful if you have a baby and you're not sleeping a lot. Like any time frame that you have, try and get in a 5, 10, 15-minute nap. And along with that is you're staying on top of your minerals and your nourishing organ meats. So that's another thing that I was also focusing on, is making sure you're getting in your gelatin and your collagen. Typically discard. Can you hear me?
Sorry, that was my fault. I had a timer
Nope,
pop
you're
up.
good. Nope, you're awesome. You're good. And so, yeah, what other foundation? I'm trying to think. What are, of course, are reducing our stress. So very, very fundamental. Back to the basics, like making sure we have those hobbies that keep us connected to, not just our family, but our friends and ourselves. So that's also where me becoming a yoga teacher was really, really nice, because it brought a sense of community to me. So whether you do yoga or you do any type of exercise, just something that makes you feel like you are you're connected to yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, and doing that every day, whether it's 15 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever you can do. Yeah.
Those are some awesome tips. Yeah, no, I think that, like, even going back to the minerals, just people understanding the power of those, especially with pregnancy, and just naturally, improving energy, and then how we don't make them, so we have to get them in through sources.
Yeah.
So I love that you were doing that. And then blood sugar, addressing the frequent meals, getting that in right away, and making sure you're eating enough throughout the day. I think I'm sure as a mom, it's hard to eat throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so do you have any tips for those moms out there who like struggle with that a little bit, whether it's eating with your kids or, trying, because I think also too, during the nap time, you want to do all the things you can for yourself, but then you also want to sleep. So then, like, what do you do?
Yeah, so right now my daughter is 1 year old, so she's up and toddling around and very, very busy. But one thing that I do with her
It's
is
so
when
crazy she's 1, because I remember when we started school, she was just born. That's so crazy.
I know. Oh, that
Oh,
time, I wish we could just go back. But yeah,
oh,
she's 1, and I'm still breastfeeding, so I frequently think, like, is she eating enough? Because really a lot of it is comforting. Like, around when she sees me, she wants to comfort feed and not so much eat her meals. But that's totally normal for her to choose, the milk versus what's there in front of her. But I'm definitely focusing on making sure I'll sprinkle beef liver powder on some of her meals, and she absolutely loves that. She'll actually just dip her finger in the powder, because once they're that small, like, introducing those flavors, they don't know any different. And so
right.
she's loving it, and she loves fruit. So I'm always having a side of fruit with her meals, and I'll do like egg yolk, milk, froth both of those up, and she'll sip on that. I do a lot of adrenal mocktails with her to make sure that she's getting enough sodium and
Look at
vitamin.
you.
Yeah, so she actually, whatever I eat, she'll eat or drink, and so it's phenomenal to watch that and know that I'm really nourishing her. Like I'm her source, not just with my milk, but also everything I put on her tray or what's in front of her is either going to nourish her or you know, kind of do the opposite. Or, but like I said, 80/20. It's not perfect, but yeah, it's cool being the source of her nourishment.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, and so back to also the sleeping. When you asked, most people sleep when they're napping. I can't say that's the case. I tried from the beginning, but I'm more of the, I have a few things to do, and I'll lie in bed even if I'm like sleep deprived. I'll still sit there like I shouldn't be here right now. I should get up and do a few tasks, or just sit there and find a gratitude practice. Just
Hey,
some
I
time
mean,
for myself.
yeah, whatever and like I love that you incorporate or that you mentioned like finding joy too, because I think, it's hard. You probably lose a little bit of yourself after having a baby and you're just trying to figure out what you're doing and who you are. And I had a conversation with someone recently who used to dance a lot, and once they got into motherhood and everything, it just completely changed. And so thankfully she's at a point now where she can go back and try to do that for herself because it brings her joy and it makes her happy. And I think, a lot of those simple things that we as women tend to forget about, and also just moms in general, because we want to do everything and we want to keep up with the demands of society. And it's just not something that is suited for who we are, right? So I love that you mentioned all of that.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And I think that's also plays along into what really brought me into the health and wellness was that stress factor and feeling like I need to have all of these things, I need to do all of these things. And that's actually right now. I had the plan after the NTA to open my practice and be a boss mom, but really once I had my baby, I was like, you know what, this is only happening for a short time. Even if I have 2, 3 kids, you can never take those first couple years back. So I'm really just surrendering to watching them grow in this really fast time, and then over time I can slowly build my practice. But I know that passion is there because every day, like on my free time, I want to continue learning, but also it just wasn't for that season right now. Right now is just kind of taking in those baby snuggles and just learning about motherhood, because it's just, I mean, a year into it and I still feel like it's a new thing, you
Of
know?
course. Yeah, so much to
Yeah.
learn. And I think that's an ongoing journey, but I think that's very commendable. And, I've seen a few other NTPs who I used to connect with more frequently do the same. Checked in with them and I was like, "Are you okay?" And they were, just,
Yeah.
yeah, I just needed to step back. And that's, not a mom yet, so I can't relate, but can absolutely see how that would be a huge priority. And it's just a lot to do it all. You just can't. So you've got to take a step back. Um, so speaking of like overwhelm, like not only just with doing all the things as a mom and as just a woman in general, but also with all the nutrition stuff out there. So, if you were working with clients right now, what's some advice that you would offer them with regards to kind of kickstarting a healthier journey, getting away from diet culture and starting to make some healthier shifts? Is there anything you'd prioritize first? And then just
Yeah.
anything and the mindset that goes with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So even like before this time, I was a nutrition and wellness coach. So I would do a program in the gym for them, and then I would interlace my nutrition education with that. And so that was actually a huge concern for pretty much most of the clients, especially those busy moms that I was working with, and they felt like they're being tugged in every direction. And so first of all is understanding that you can't do it all, and if you're going to try and do it all, well, we're going to fail epically. And so one thing that they would do is they would sit down and write out where in your life are you feeling overwhelmed? You know, like, are you feeling like you're a bad mom, or are you feeling like you're not being able to put forth the energy you want in your workout? Like, what does that overwhelm look like? And then start chipping away in one area. Like, you can't climb the mountain in a day. You have to start your practice. Yeah, you have to start small, chip away small. So they would, you know, maybe it was like, for example, in the gym, they wanted to do 15 push-ups. Like, this was actually a thing. And so we would start with some push exercises and implement like one push exercise a day and get kind of strong at that. And then, you know, over time, like a 3-month period, they would be able to get their 15 push-ups. So with all that being said, it's all just starting in one area, and really just focusing on that and putting everything else to the side, but you still have that full list of things that you want to accomplish, but that's not for now. You know, we have our one thing, a few things, and let's master that, and then slowly bring in another thing from that overwhelm list to start working on. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. No, I think that within my group program as well, I have a mental health therapist who is a part of it, which is awesome. So we do talk a lot about setting boundaries and then also setting SMART
Mm-hmm.
goals. And I think that that is so important because people want to jump in and do all the things right away and they expect healing to be an overnight process, and it's not. So, you know,
Yeah.
setting those specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive goals that allow you to really just, again, focus on one thing at a time. And I think there was one thing that I learned once just in my early entrepreneurial years that was, you know, you build your own self confidence when you follow through on the commitments that you make to yourself. And I think that if we
Yeah.
as people try to do too much and we don't, like you said, you're going to fail, you're not going to feel motivated, you're not going to have the, you know, the spark to want to keep going forward. You're going to fall back and you're going to go into bad habits. So if you truly do take things slow and you know, you set a goal, like you said, you have one push up a day and then you work your way up, and every single day you crush that goal, it makes you feel super awesome and makes you feel confident in what you can
Yeah.
do and accomplish. And then next thing you know, you're doing 100 push-ups. So I think that's a really cool approach that you said, especially because it relates to any stage of life. And I think that you know, is something that anyone can relate to. So I love that. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I was just kind of gonna add on to that quote of yours. It's like every time you're whether you're working towards running a marathon or doing push-ups, and you show up to the gym or you show up to your workout, that you're voting for yourself. But if you choose not to do that, you're going against yourself. So yeah, just making that like, I'm voting to be a better person. And I'm trying to think on the spot here when it also comes to overwhelm. I love the SMART goals because I'm also familiar with that. But also um, the gratitude thing. I feel like that's huge. It's just people aren't nice, and they're not respectful towards their self and their thoughts. And so just that small gratitude practice, or whatever you want to call it. Some people maybe are overwhelmed with gratitude. You know, it's all over, but maybe you just call it a self-care minute, and just write down what the heck you're proud of and why you're proud of yourself, and start building up that self-esteem towards your body and towards yourself, and see how that gets you too. I don't know. That's a thought.
Yeah, I love that. No, small wins are big wins, you know, and I think that again, we want to hit these major markers, and if we're just eating 3 meals a day, that's a big deal.
Yes.
So
So
that's
aside
totally,
from,
totally doable. I like that.
thank you. Okay, you can
Hold
hear
on, you're
me,
kind of
right?